Sound check test 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Sound check 1 2 1 2. Make sure we are public here. Yes, good to go. On on here. We are on here. We are on here. We are here. We are there. Good morning. Happy New Year's Eve. Is that a thing? Is that a thing that people say? Happy New Year's Eve. Hope everybody's having a great start to your day. And why is my frame? It's interesting. I'm live in a couple different places, but the frame looks different in each one. All right, there we go. All right, y'all see what the topic is here today. For those of you on TikTok, allegedly, people on TikTok told me y'all can't see the topic. We're going to talk about toxic masculinity today. Toxic masculinity. And I'm putting that in air quotes because there's really no such thing as toxic masculinity. But I'm going to explain all of that here today. I'm going to go through some concepts of what allegedly embodies toxic masculinity today in this live. I don't want this late lapel going up against my mic, so let me just unbutton that. All right, let's see. We got 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 different points that I found that people are saying about toxic masculinity, and everybody here has heard of the subject. Everybody here has heard of the topic, and maybe you have been accused of being toxic masculine. Maybe you have accused other people of being toxic masculine. Maybe you just see it and you have some opinions of it. First, let's get a definition of it that I got from this website called verywellmind.com. And I'm going to take the points that they listed out as to what they define as basically the attributes or the proof, for lack of a better term, of what constitutes someone being toxic masculine. I'm going to go through each one of those points and tell you what I think about it and why a lot of it is, I'll tell you up front, a lot of it is complete bullshit. I'm going to help you all understand that as we get into these points. First of all, let me define what toxic masculinity is. Quote, this is from verywellmind.com. This is not from me. Toxic masculinity refers to a collection of offensive, harmful beliefs, tendencies, and behaviors rooted in traditional male roles, but taken to an extreme. This dangerous idea of quote unquote manliness perpetuates domination, homophobia, and aggression, and can be harmful to the mental health of all genders. It also can have serious social consequences, which is how it became known as toxic masculinity. Close quote, period, close quote. So what we're going to do here is go over all of this nonsense. I'm going to help you all explain that toxic masculinity is not even a thing. And I'm going to take all the points that people have attributed to what they say contributes to toxic masculinity to help you understand that it's not toxic. It is masculine, but it's not toxic. And there's nothing negative about it. It's damn sure not harmful. I don't even like that language. Offensive, maybe it is offensive, but so what? Harmful, no. And what else did they say? Things taken to an extreme. Again, who's the judge of that? We're going to get into that. And this idea, they put manliness in quotation marks, and this is written by a woman. So why this person is even saying, I even know who the woman is who wrote this. I'm not going to out her here today, but y'all can go look it up and you can find this woman's name. And we're going to get into all of this. Let's get to it. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day. Former 9-year pro athlete, author of 35 books, done 4 TEDx talks, created this brand called Work on Your Game. Our job over here is to help you perform at your highest possible level, do so consistently, and produce the best results you possibly can. We're trying to help people get to the top 2% of what you do, whether you're in sales, you're an entrepreneur, you're an athlete, when it comes to your mindset, your strategy, your systems, and your accountability for implementation throughout your professional life and your personal life. That's what we do in a nutshell. You want to learn more about that, just go to baldwinuniversity.com. That link is in my bio wherever you are consuming this. By the way, I will take all questions and comments when I'm done. After I get through all these points, I'll take questions and comments. And for those of you who do not know, I'm live on 7 different platforms right now. I'm on YouTube, X, Rumble, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. So whichever one you're watching me on, I'm on 6 others aside from that one. So I'm looking at more than one screen at the same time while I'm talking to all of you. But I'm going to go through all 9 of these points. I'm going to tell you what they say makes toxic masculinity. Then I'm going to tell you what I think about it. And then we'll go to the next point. We'll go through all 9. Then I'm going to take questions and comments. All right. So this should take me, I want to go maybe to the top of the hour going through the points. And I'll take questions starting at about 9 o'clock. So everybody got it? Good. Again, questions and comments I'm taking at the end. So let's start. Point number 1, toughness. And again, they have this in quotation marks. That they say one of the things that makes someone toxic masculine is the belief that they need to be tough. And they say that men should be, this is their language, men should be physically strong, emotionally callous, and behaviorally aggressive. And period. That's the end of what they say. And they're saying that this makes you a toxic man if you think that you should be physically strong, emotionally callous, and behaviorally aggressive. All right. This is nonsense. First of all, this is not a should. This is the biological wiring of a man. All right. The biological wiring of a man is that men are, we are physically stronger than women. Compared to females, a man is physically stronger. So physically strong, again, relatively speaking, of course, yes, a man, of course, is physically strong. Yes, he is. And again, who are you comparing him to? There's only men and women. Having control over your emotions. So they say emotionally callous. So they make it seem like it's a negative thing. But men need to be in control of their emotions, because a man who can't control his emotions combined with his physicality can become a very dangerous individual. So we want men to be in control of their emotions, because a man who can't control his emotions, those are the ones who end up doing the mass shootings that we get in schools. Those are the ones who end up doing the sexual assaults that people get accused of. Those are the men who can't control their emotions. The men who can control their emotions, they're the ones who we call on, or you may call on if you ever find yourself in trouble and you need some help. You call on a man who can control his emotions. He can direct them in the way that he wants to, and he has the physicality to do something with those emotions if and when necessary. So this is not a crazy thing to say that a man is going to be physically strong and emotionally, again, they're using the word callous to make it sound worse than it actually is. And this is not to say that and let me back up. In a general sense, women tend to lean more emotional and more reactive, whereas men tend to be more logical and rational. That is not to say that there are not exceptions. Of course, there are men who can be emotional and reactive. There are women who can be very logical and very objective, let's just say. But generally speaking, the generalization is still true. And we have to speak in generalizations. Otherwise, we would run out of time trying to go over every possible exception to everything that could possibly be said. And to say that, let me back up again. When we're speaking in generalities, is this true? Of course it's true. So to label this as some type of toxicity is complete nonsense. And where this becomes problematic is in the world that we're living in today, that a lot of men are being conditioned and encouraged to behave more like women, to conduct themselves more like a female. Oh, well, you need to be more emotional. You need to be less behaviorally aggressive. You need to not use your physicality as much. Aggression is a good thing, ladies and gentlemen. And the language of this article, just reading through this article. And again, I know who the woman is who wrote this article. I've heard her on different interviews and things like that. And I read through everything that was in this very well-mined post. This is the type of woman who you don't want raising a man, because that man's going to grow up to be a complete pussy. You don't want a woman raising this type of man. Actually, you don't want a woman even dating a man, because you're going to turn him into a pussy unless his frame is stronger than hers, which is everything that a man does. Somehow it's labeled, and these people are really smart. They know how to use certain language to make things sound worse than they actually are. So this is this whole concept of behaviorally aggressive. First of all, aggression is a good thing. What does aggression mean? Aggression means going after something with consciousness and intentionality, and going after it where you're serious and you're making sure that everyone knows that you're going after that thing. That's what aggression means. Aggression is not necessarily a negative thing. But again, we have been conditioned and socialized to believe that the word aggression means somebody's being bad, mean, negative, taking advantage of somebody, trying to hurt another person. When you hear the word aggression, that's generally what we accept it to mean. Aggression does not necessarily mean that. Aggressive just means you're going for what you want. It just means you're going for what you want. And anyone who gets what they want, usually you got to be aggressive to get it, because it's not going to just get handed to you, especially anything that involves any level of competition in life, such as an attractive woman. There's more than one man who wants that woman. A good job, there's more than one person who wants that job. A certain level of accomplishment, let's say in sports, for example, everybody can't win. Everybody can't be the champion. Somebody's going to lose. So aggression is not necessarily a negative thing, but again, it gets framed as if you're doing something wrong by being aggressive. And this is where it starts. And what they're saying is, if you are not going to be a toxic man, you have to do the opposite of these things. So do the opposite of that means, let's go back to what they said. Don't be physically strong. Okay. So a toxic man has the belief that you're supposed to be physically strong. So what's the way to not be toxic? So to not be physically strong, don't lift weights, don't go to the gym, don't have a six pack, don't have muscles. What the hell are they talking? This doesn't even make any sense. We're only on the first point. I got 9 of these. Emotionally callous. Now, emotions are, again, you can't measure emotions, and there's a lot of different ways to look at emotions. But one thing that I stand on, and I've been saying this for years, is that a man is in the emotional management business. Women as well, but specifically men, we're in the emotional management business. It doesn't mean that we don't have emotions, and it doesn't mean that you suppress or ignore your emotions. It means you recognize your emotions and you learn to control and direct your emotions in the direction that you want to use them. So, for example, if I get really angry or really sad or really frustrated or really upset, I learn how to transmute that energy of that emotion into something positive that's going to help me perform. That means I might take that energy and go to the gym. I might take that energy and go write my next book. I might take that energy and channel it into getting all these things done that I got to get done for my business today. So it's controlling your emotions and managing them. It doesn't mean not having them. And again, the languaging here, all of you got to be very careful of this as you go out into society, is that these people are really smart people, and they know how to use certain words to make things sound better or worse than they actually are, to condition you or to influence you to think that something is bad or think that something is good, just because of the way that they language it. The same way that we got abortion all of a sudden became reproductive freedom. It sounds like two different things, right? When you change the language of a thing. So you got to be very careful with these, because these people are smart and they know exactly what they're doing. And if you're not really on point with the language and the way that people use their verbiage, they can run circles around you with this nonsense. And behaviorally aggressive. All right, men should be aggressive. You want men to be aggressive. Even the women who are listening to this right now, if you were at home by yourself with your child and there's no man in the house and there's some man banging on your door trying to kick down your front door and you call 911, who do you want to show up? Who do you want to show up? You want a behaviorally aggressive man with a badge and a gun to show up. Why? Because they're going to defend you. You don't want nobody. You don't want a man who's not going to be behaviorally aggressive. You don't want some social worker to show up. You don't want some person who is not physically strong to show up, as allegedly that makes them toxic. You want a toxic man to show up to defend you, because if a toxic man doesn't show up, then you might be in some bigger trouble. Everybody understand this? So let's move on. I'm going to take questions and comments at the end, by the way. Moving on to point number 2, where I'm listing out the things that allegedly make a man toxic masculinity. Number 2 is anti-femininity. So what they say is men should reject traditionally feminine behaviors, such as showing emotion and accepting help. Again, this is nonsense. Again, we already talked about the emotion stuff. Again, men have emotions the same way that women have emotions. What I suggest to men, I stand on this with men, is that you need to learn to control and direct your emotions. This is the skill of transmutation, which any successful man has in spades. Transmutation simply is utilizing the law of conservation of energy, which states that energy is neither created nor destroyed. It merely changes forms, or it moves from one object to another. So if a man is feeling angry or frustrated, doesn't mean he should go punch a hole in the wall or beat a person up. What it means is he needs to transmute that energy and channel it into something positive and productive that's going to help himself, his community, his company, his family, etc. So whether it's showing the emotion, no, it's fine if a man wants to show emotion. You want to cry, go ahead and cry. You want to be happy and jump up and down, go ahead and jump up and down and be happy. But the goal, especially for a man, especially in the world that we live in today, specifically for the women out there who are looking for the highest caliber men, you want a man who's actually going to go produce something and produce an outcome or produce results or produce resources for you, yourself, your family. All right, that's what women want. Now, you get people writing articles like this nonsense and then saying that, well, men should be more willing to show emotion. Would you rather, if you had an option, would you rather your man sit there and cry about something he's upset with? Or would you rather your man channel the energy of that disappointment into something that's actually going to help him move forward so that you can be proud that that's your man or your son or your dad? Or would you rather him just sit there and cry because it makes him feel good because he sat there and cried, but he doesn't produce an outcome? I mean, if you had that option, if you had that binary, which one would you pick? I think most women here would rather pick the man that goes and does something with that energy rather than the man who sits there and wallows in the energy. But according to what people say about toxic masculinity, this is what they want men to do. And this other thing of accepting help. There's nothing wrong with accepting help. Now, if you're going to build a business and be successful in business, you're going to have help. You're going to have software working for you. You're going to have people working for you. You may have contractors working for you. So yes, men will accept help. Usually we go and get the help. And it's not even that we're sitting there failing and someone comes along and says, hey, do you want some help? Usually the man, a high level man who's going to go out there and make things happen, we go looking for the help. Okay, I don't want to have to clean my house, but my house needs to be clean. Let me go hire a house cleaner. All right, I don't want to have to fix this coding on my website because I don't know how. Let me go hire a developer who can do some coding on my website. We go looking for the help and seeking it out. So this whole, again, this concept, this framing is where everything becomes tricky here. It's not even just the bigger picture of what they're saying, it's the way that they're framing it. So this connects directly to what I just said in the first point. And accepting help, they are framing this as if showing emotion and accepting help are traditionally feminine behaviors. And in some ways it is, but again, as I just explained, there are caveats and differences into this. And it depends on the situation and what type of help that we are talking about. And men generally accept that a man who can solve problems, women accept this as well. A man who can solve problems is more attractive than a man who cannot, and instead either has help come find him or goes looking for the help without actually trying to solve the problem himself. Again, what type of man are you looking for? Ladies out there, what type of man would you prefer? The man who can go and solve a problem or the man who just sits there being beat up by his problems and can't figure it out? Which one would you pick? If you had that A and B, which one would you pick? I think most women is going to pick the man who can go and solve a problem, who can get things fixed. Why? Because this is hypergamy. This is what women want. So the person who figures things out and solves them on their own without you even knowing that there was a problem, because they never even told you that there was a problem, they just went out and solved it. Or would you rather the man who comes to you and says, hey, help me solve this problem because they can't solve it themselves, and you're looking at them like, I would expect the man to be able to solve this, but he can't solve it. Again, I don't even need to wait for your answer. I know what the answer is because, again, all of you been around, all of you have lived, all of you been around men, all of you been around women. Which one would you pick? Moving on, point number 3. I can take a lot of time on each one of these, but I want to make sure I get through them all. Number 3, toxic masculinity trait is power. Men should work toward, again, this is what makes a man toxic. If a man thinks he should work toward obtaining power and status, both socially and financially, and thus gaining the respect of others. Let me ask the question. How many of you want a man who doesn't want to do that? And let me wait for, put yes or no, especially to the women who are listening to me right now. How many of you want a man in your life who does not want to obtain power, does not want to attain status, doesn't want social and financial status, and does not want to gain the respect of others? Because obviously that makes him a toxic man. So how many ladies listening to this does not want a man who does that? All right, put yes if you're good with a man who does not want to obtain power, status, and the respect of others, and put no if you want a man who actually does want to obtain power and status and respect of others. I remember this. So I'm seeing the ladies, I'm getting all no answers. So I remember there was this guy named Kevin Samuel. Some of you may remember Kevin. He passed away about 2.5 years ago. But one of the things he would talk about is high value men. There's a lot of people who talk about high value men. He was one of them, and he helped popularize the term. And one of the things that he would talk about was that to be high value is not just about making a certain amount of money, but it's also about you having the respect of the other people in the group. You had to be a contributor to the group of other men who are high value. You need to be looked at by other men who are high value, and they need to see you as a somebody for you to be a somebody. You can't be a somebody just being out here by yourself. And every woman, it's obvious from these responses that I'm getting in the comments right now on TikTok, is that any woman, no matter who the man is, it doesn't mean you're going around looking for a man who's a millionaire just because he's a millionaire, or a man who has a certain job just because he has that certain job. But any man, no matter who he is, he could be a manager at Home Depot. You want a man who is looking to obtain more power, more status, he has ambition. That's what I hear women say. even when I used to watch Kevin Samuels videos and he would have women come on there and talk to them, and he would ask, oh, what kind of man are you looking for? Some form of that question. And the woman would always say, I want a man who is either already somewhere or a man who is looking to go somewhere. I would never hear a woman say, I'm okay with a man who's at this spot and he's just going to stay at that spot for the rest of his life, and I'm good with that. Nobody ever said that. I never heard a woman say that. And what man respects a man who's doing that? The men who are listening to me right now, do any of you respect a man who gets to a certain station and says, I'm just good staying right here at this spot? Maybe some of you do. Maybe some of you are that man. But most of the men that I know, most of the men who I deal with, and I told you who I work with people who are looking to be top 2% performers. I naturally am attracted to people who have some level of ambition, people who want to go somewhere. So this whole concept of a man looking to obtain power, social power, financial power, or any level of status somehow makes you toxic. This is crazy. And this is the kind of stuff that's being taught in schools to your sons. Any of you who's sending your kid to school, you need to understand this is the kind of stuff that they're being taught. They're being told that it makes you toxic. That means you're doing something wrong if you're trying to obtain financial status or social status, or you're trying to do things that will make you be more respected by other men who are of quality, that you're doing something wrong. This is what's being taught to them. You all better be very careful about where you're sending your kids and what you're allowing them to be influenced by, because it's nonsense like this shit by, again, smart people with advanced degrees who are, again, getting contracted to write this stuff. This is like the definitive list of what makes a man toxic. And this is the kind of nonsense that's in it. Again, would any of you want to deal with a man who is not respected by other men, a man who has no money and is not trying to get it, and a man who has no respect and is not trying to get it? Even if he doesn't have money, is he trying to get money? If he's not respected, is he trying to get respected? If he has no status, is he trying to get status? Because not every man's going to have it all the time. Sometimes it could be up and down, especially in life in general. Sometimes you have ups, you have downs. But how many of you respect a man who is not trying to get it, even if he doesn't have it right now? I'm talking to the men and the women out there. I can't respect a man who's not trying to go do something, even if right now things are looking bad for him. Is he trying to get back? Again, how many of you want a man like that? How many of you would sleep with a man who is not even trying to go anywhere and do anything? You can't respect him. You can't do it. You can't do it. You can't even move yourself to that. You can't even get there mentally with a man like that. And I'm not speaking from the perspective of a woman. I'm not a woman, but this is what I am assuming. If I got it wrong, any of you can let me know. So let's continue. And I'm going to take questions and comments at the end, by the way. I got 9 points to get through. I'm on point number 3. So society is trying to force this thing upon men. And one of the reasons why our society has become weak is because we're weakening men with the bullshit like what I'm explaining here today. I'm reading these off and then I'm giving you my opinion on them. This is what's happening. We're weakening society because we weaken men. When you weaken men, societies collapse. And right now, Western society is starting to crumble. And there's starting to be cracks in our facade simply because we're weakening men by teaching them that trying to be powerful makes you bad. So if we have no powerful men in society, what kind of society do we have? We have a society that is very weak and very vulnerable and very open to any nonsense that gets thrown at it. This is how we get garbage like men turning into women, or boys turning into girls, or girls turning into boys, and people pushing this idea we got to put women in charge. The problem with that whole concept of putting women in charge is that you can't name a single successful society that was run by women ever in history. We've had thousands of years of civilization. Not one was ever run by women. So what are we going to have when we take all the strong men who are aiming to be powerful and have ambition, and we tell them that they're wrong for doing that? You should do the opposite of that. What do we have remaining? We have nothing. And I want y'all to understand that this kind of nonsense that I'm articulating here to you today, this is not being taught in other countries. The other countries that might be able to overtake us in power, and any of you Americans with your American arrogance thinks that we can't be overtaken. Oh, we can be overtaken. The countries over there, like the country that starts with the letter C and the country that starts with the letter R, you think they couldn't possibly overtake us? Well, what if we have no powerful men? What if every man was to read this list and believe it and accept it and say, well, I'm going to stop trying to be ambitious. I'm going to stop trying to get better. I'm going to stop trying to obtain status and power. I'm going to stop trying to be physically strong and behaviorally aggressive. And all the men are like that. What do you think the people in the other countries are going to say? Oh, these guys are weak. Let's go get them. And it ain't like the women can fight back. All right, we're going to put the women on the front line. So pay attention. Moving on, point number 4. We're talking here today about allegedly what makes a man a toxic masculine man. So point number 4 is the suppression of emotions. So you notice emotions coming up often already in this list. So what they say is men are taught to avoid showing vulnerability, sadness, or fear, as these are signs of weakness. Now, I believe this is clever and tricky wording, what they're using here. Again, I've already said that like 3 times. And it's not a man's job, as I said already, to suppress your emotions. It is your job to manage and direct your emotions. So men do feel maybe vulnerability, if you want to use that word. Do men feel sadness? Yes. So somebody in your family dies. A dog got hit by a car. Fear. Yes. Men feel all of these things. Is it a sign of weakness to necessarily show it? It depends. It depends. It depends on where you're showing it. It depends on who you're showing it to. And it depends on why you're showing it. There are different contexts in which it does make sense to show these things. Let's say you're sitting in a therapist's office or you're having a heart-to-heart with your wife. Sure, you can show these energies. But at the same time, you're standing in front of your business team or the people you're supposed to be leading or the people who have decided to follow you. That might not be the time that you want to show this type of energy. So it depends, and the context matters. But this article doesn't factor in the context. It's just saying that it's toxic if you even believe that you're not supposed to do this stuff. So men feel the same emotions that women feel, as I said, maybe even more than a woman feels them, because the man has the physicality to act on his emotions in a way that a woman does not have the physicality to do. So a man's job, again, is to manage and direct his emotions. And that direction of emotion, you direct it into effective and productive behavior that produces outcomes that the man wants, that will benefit the family, the group, the society, and himself as well. That's the point of emotions. You find yourself in a conversation, any of you find yourself in a conversation with some feminist who brings up this point under the subject of toxic masculinity. The first thing you need to do is shift the terrain and not fight on this ground of that a man is taught to suppress his emotions. See, what y'all have to understand is the framing of this. A lot of what happens these days in conversation and discourse about these social issues is that people are really tricky with the framing. They're really tricky with the way they frame the conversation. So it makes it seem like you're doing something wrong based on the way they set it up. No matter how you respond to it, they are in the winning position. That's why you got to be careful with these folks. Again, I told you, they're very smart. They are devious, but they're smart at the same time. What you have to do is shift the terrain of the conversation, which is why I said to you, the context matters. The context in which this point is posted, no matter what you say back to it, they end up being right. That's why you have to shift the context and shift the frame and say, well, this is framed incorrectly. Instead, let's frame it this way. Now you're in a conversation that you can actually make your point. But if you argue it on their terrain, then you end up losing. If you haven't read The Art of War by Sun Tzu, he explains this concept. So you have to reframe the conversation into what I explained. And again, some of these feminists, very tricky with their language, and you have to call them out on their nonsense, not engage with them on their level. Because if you engage with them on their level, they're already more experienced than you, and they end up basically, quote unquote, winning or proving their points. And their points are based in nonsense. You got to point out the nonsense. Point number 5. We're talking here about toxic masculinity, or what allegedly is toxic masculinity. Number 5 is avoidance of help seeking. Seeking help, whether for emotional, mental, or physical health issues, is perceived as unmanly or weak. Again, this depends on the context, and it depends on the situation. It depends on what type of issue. It depends on why the man is having the issue, and it depends on what type of help could possibly help in the situation. So on a general level, which man do you respect more? Let me ask the question. Do you respect the man who looks for and works towards solutions to problems on his own, or the one who goes looking for help before they even try to figure out the situation? I would think all men and women who are listening to this would prefer the man who finds solutions to his own problems, or at least tries as hard as possible to solve his own problems before going and looking for help for a problem. Because again, what do we respect? We respect the person who is self-sufficient. What does self-sufficiency mean? It means the person who can handle their own business, take care of the issues that are in front of them, and they don't need to go looking for outside help to solve every problem because they can solve it on their own. We respect self-sufficient individuals. And being self-sufficient does not mean that you're holed off in a corner and you never talk to anybody else and you are completely isolated from society. That's not what it means. Self-sufficient means you're the type of person that when everybody else has a problem, they call you. That's what a self-sufficient person is. You are the person you're the stopgap. You're the emergency emergency button that gets pressed. Every time somebody else can't solve their own problems, they're coming to you because you're the problem solver. You're the leader. You're the breadwinner. You're the person that everybody else is going to follow because you are a great problem solver. Those are the men who are most respected. And usually the men who are able to solve problems for everybody else, usually they're well connected because everybody's always calling them. They usually are well resourced. That's one of the reasons why they can solve problems. They are mentally tough and very disciplined. That's one of the reasons why they can solve problems. And people tend to look up to them. They are highly respected on a social level. And usually they have some level of resources, whether those be financial, mental, physical, or a combination of all the above. These are the type of men that women are interested in. And these are the type of men that other men look up to, respect, and aspire to be like. So how is this toxic? Oh, this is what makes a man toxic, ladies and gentlemen, according to what I'm reading here. Everything I just explained to you is what makes a man toxic. By aiming to be this type of man, it makes you toxic. And again, this is what they're teaching to your kids. They're telling this to your daughters. So your daughters think a man is toxic. You should stay away from any man who's like this. And they're teaching it to your sons. So your sons think any man who's like this is bad. So let me not be like this. This is what they're teaching them. All right. This person is a well-known individual who wrote this article. So the answer for either a man or a woman is we respect the people who go out and solve problems. Problem solvers are leaders. Problem solvers are highly paid individuals. You see people on social media talking about, well, CEOs make this much money while the average worker makes this much money. The reason why the CEO makes so much more money than the average worker is because the CEO has to solve much bigger problems. That's the reason why the CEO is the CEO. They have to solve really, really big problems. The president of the United States has to solve a whole lot of big problems that don't really have perfect solutions. The reason why the president is the president because there are no perfect solutions to any problem that's presented to the president, but they got to come up with an answer anyway. It is a highly stressful job. It's a highly challenging job. That's the reason why it's the biggest job in the country, because there are no perfect answers. If there were perfect answers, then the job wouldn't be as big as it is. And that's why that person is so highly respected, the person in that position. That's the reason why the CEO is so highly respected, because they have to solve complex problems that don't really have simple answers. The simpler the answers that to the problems that you solve, the lower your level on the totem pole. The higher and more complex problems that you are willing to address, the more you get paid, the more you are respected, and the higher your status. That's the way it works in life. And I'm talking specifically to the men here because we're talking about toxic masculinity. And for the ladies who are listening to this, again, think about it. What type of men are you attracted to? Even if you have a man, if you have a boyfriend, you have a husband already, what type of men, when you just notice other men, when you just hear them talking, when you see them doing their work, what type of man do you respect the most? The men who handle the biggest problems, who take on the biggest challenges, even if they can't come up with a perfect answer, they try to deal with it anyway. And they don't cower and quit when the situation seems a little bit more challenging than what the average person could take on. This is the person who's most respected by women and by men. Not even on any type of intimate sexual level, just on a personal level. We respect the man who handles the biggest challenges. But again, according to what society is teaching your kids, that this makes you toxic. This makes you toxic when you go for this stuff. And again, there's nothing wrong with seeking help. Seeking help is actually a good idea. The most successful entrepreneurs I know of, and that we all know of, what do they have? One of the things that makes them successful is that they got a whole bunch of people working for them. Does Elon Musk do all the work? No. Does Jeff Bezos do all the work? No. Donald Trump in his business world, does he do all the work? No. The most successful business people have a whole bunch of people working for them. Most successful CEO, the company has 1,000 people. So is the CEO getting help? They might not call it seeking help, but they get a whole lot of help. They're not doing all the work. The CEO of, name a Fortune 500 company, the CEO of Walmart is not cleaning the bathrooms at a Walmart in Minneapolis. Somebody's cleaning the bathroom because they got that person on the payroll getting the job done. So there's nothing wrong with having help or seeking help, whatever language you want to use with this. And this whole concept of the man is just trying to do everything on his own is a false frame. The whole framing is false. And that's what I explained to you all earlier. That's why you got to shift the terrain of this conversation off of where these feminists who are writing this stuff, and this is definitely feminists who write this nonsense, because no actual feminine woman is going to write this bullshit, because no feminine woman is attracted to a man who goes by this description. There's not one. No feminine woman is attracted to a man who would actually adhere to this bullshit that I'm reading in this article here. So let's continue. So there are big, strong men. I'm continuing on, still on point number 5. Big, strong men who have personal trainers. All right. What is a personal trainer? Help. It's a form of help. The best athletes you know out there who are big, strong, fast, athletic, physically very capable, notice they all have trainers. All right, so they're all getting help. So how is that toxic? When did that become toxic? The most successful business people, entrepreneurs, professionals, people who run businesses, people in the C-suites of companies, many of them have mentors and coaches in their lives for their personal life and for their business life. What is a mentor or a coach? It's a form of help. Okay, so this whole concept, professionals, business owners, they have lawyers and accountants on retainer. What are lawyers and accountants on retainer? That's a form of help. So it's not having or seeking help that's a bad idea. Again, the framing here is completely off because they're making it seem like going and getting help makes you, allegedly, that means that's the opposite of being toxic. But then at the same time, all these people who I'm naming, they fit the descriptions of everything else that makes them toxic. So which one is it? So this is what feminists try to do. They try to put all of this into one box to box you into this generalized concept that we can't just accept this as a black and white thing. It needs to be examined in more detail. And when I explain it, then it makes more sense. Moving on, point number 6. We're talking here today about what allegedly makes a man a toxic masculine man. Number 6, overemphasis on sexual conquest. Masculinity is tied to sexual dominance and the pursuit of multiple partners. And all right, that's the end of their point. Okay, so let's talk about this. In the realm of human history, it is well known and generally accepted that a man with a high position of power often had multiple sexual partners. That has always been accepted. How many sexual partners do you think Genghis Khan had back in the day, or Napoleon Bonaparte, or Julius Caesar, whatever gender you thought they were? Did they have more than one? Most of them had more than one. And they knew about it. If they had a wife, they knew about it. And generally the public knew about it, and everybody generally accepted it. This was just a thing. It's a normal thing. And even in modern times, it's also a normal thing. It may not be as out there or as obvious as it was in other times, but this is a normal thing. I remember watching the TV show The Sopranos. All right, once a week or once a month or whatever it was, all the men, the known guys with status in the mob, but they would all go out to dinner with a woman that wasn't their wife. They would go out with that woman, and it was accepted. Everybody knew about it. Everybody knew exactly how it worked. The wives knew what it was. All right, the kids knew what it was. Everybody knew what it was. All right, this is a normal thing in the realm of humanity, that men who have status tend to not just stay in one space when it comes to sexuality. This is just what it is. And many women understand this. If you've dealt with men in this position, then you understand it. You understand that this is just part of the game. Whether you were the side one or you were the main one, you understand that this is part of the game. I'm not saying every man has to do this. I'm not saying every man with status does do this, and nor am I saying that every man needs to aim to do this. If you want to be with one, then go ahead and be with one. But understand the type of men that we're talking about here. At the highest echelon, if he is with one and he stays with one, that's by choice, not by he doesn't have an option. See, there's one thing if there's a man who doesn't have options sexually, only being with one because he ain't got no other choices. Not like he has options that he has to turn down. But if a man is turning down options, that's because he has options. And if a man is taking advantage of options, again, it's because he has options. And again, this is a generally, historically has generally been accepted. But what they're trying to do here is make it seem like they're using basically reverse psychology here, making it seem like a man is wrong for looking at multiple partners all at the same time. And this is not even talking about any type of, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's not talking about any type of relationship. It's just saying that masculinity is tied to sexual dominance and the pursuit of multiple partners. Let me ask a question to the men who are listening to this right now. Any of you who want to be honest, how many of you have ever felt like, I want her, and I want her. And if I can get all of them, then I'm gonna get all of them. How many of you ever told yourself, well, something's wrong with that, especially if you're single? Any men in here ever told yourself, well, something's wrong with that? All right, you're a single man. I want her, and her. Or what's wrong with getting all three? What's wrong with that? And again, what they're telling you here is that something's wrong with it. What's wrong with multiple sexual partners? Even women have multiple sexual partners these days, but we're talking about men here today. In the realm of human history, this has never been a negative thing. It's just generally accepted. And again, the women even know the deal. And I'm not saying that this necessarily needs to be the case, although it does still exist. It's not as out there and obvious these days, but it is still a thing. And if you're a man at this level, then it shouldn't be obvious if you're doing it. You should be moving in a clean and neat way. You should not be moving in a sloppy way. Some men out here moving sloppy, but generally a man who knows what they're doing shouldn't be moving sloppy. Again, is a man's biological mandate to recreate. Man's biological mandate is to recreate. This is the reason why men can recreate for many more years past when women, they reach their expiration date for their ability to recreate. A woman cannot recreate past a certain age, but a man can be 80 years old and still recreate. Like Joe Biden, Donald Trump could, theoretically, they could conceive or help a woman conceive right now, even though they're both 70, 80 years old. Now, a woman who's 70, 80 years old is not conceiving. So it's biologically mandated that a man is supposed to recreate children in their image with a woman or with women, plural. Again, the tricky word in this whole definition here, this point number 6, is overemphasis on sexual conquest. Again, who decides? Thank you for that badge over there, Ifo Sunde on Instagram. Who decides what is an overemphasis? Again, I told you this article is written by a woman. So how the hell is a woman writing an article talking about a man being toxic means you're overemphasizing sexual conquest? Who are you to even determine how much is too much for a man when you're a woman? That doesn't make any sense. This man is overemphasizing sexual conquest. Well, how much is enough? The woman who wrote this article, how much is enough? Should a man want to have sex 3 or 4 different women in his life, and then anything over 4 is too much? Is anything over 40? Is anything over 10? Is it more than 1? What is it? All right. Who decides what an overemphasis is on a sexual conquest? It damn sure ain't a woman deciding that for a man. A man decides how much he should emphasize sexual conquest versus everything else. And there is a balance to be struck. Now, very early when I first started my podcast, which is called Work on Your Game, you can find it on all the Spotify, Apple, YouTube. You can find it on all the listening apps. I did an episode called For Men, How to Stop Chasing Ass and Get Focused. This is like 2016. I put this episode up. And one of the things I explained to men is that when you decide that you're going to get into a monogamous relationship, that was the word that I was missing earlier. You want to get into a monogamous relationship. You found the woman that you want to settle down with is going to be your wife, and or you just want to get more focused on other things in life besides just chasing ass and getting girls. Then the first thing you should do in your younger years, so let's just say between the ages of 18 and 40, let's just say during those years, go and do all that you're going to do. Go get all the girls you want to get all the ass you want to get, have as much sex as you want to have. Make sure you're protecting yourself so there's no transmitted diseases, no unwanted pregnancies, etc. No paying for things that you don't need to pay for. Just go and get all that you want to get. So when you do finally find the woman you want to be with and you want to be monogamous, if you so choose, you're not now having wandering eyes thinking about, damn, what if I did something like that or that over there or her over here? Because you already had the experience. You already had enough of that. You've experienced it enough that you can move on and do other things. And it's also well known, it has been generally accepted that men tend to reach their mental maturity around the age of 40, around their early 40s. Around that time, that's when men stop thinking so much with the head below the waist and they start thinking more with the head up here above the neck. And this is at the age when men stop focusing so much on as much ass as they can get and instead focus on career and professional accomplishments. This is also why most men hit their financial stride between the ages of 45 and 55. That is statistically true. Most men make their most money, their highest level of income is between the ages of 45 and 55. One of the reasons is, of course, you have the seasoning because they've been working and doing their business for some time or being in their career for whatever amount of time. They developed skills. They've gotten smarter. They still have the physical energy to go out and do work. And at the same time, they are no longer so mentally focused. They're not mentally distracted or focused on women and getting as much ass as possible. They're now really, really hyper focused on their business. And no wonder they get higher levels of accomplishment at that level or during that time period because they're no longer focused on other things. I'm saying all that to say that there's nothing wrong with emphasizing sexual conquest if that's what you want to do. Again, it's part of your biological wiring. Human beings are one of few species out there that have sex for pleasure. Most animals only have sex for the purpose of recreating. That's the only reason that they have sex. Humans, and there are a few others, dolphins are one that I've heard of, and there are a few others who will have sex for pleasure. But we have sex for pleasure for a reason, because it's part of our wiring to want to do it. So it doesn't make you wrong if you're angling to do it, and it doesn't make you a toxic man if you're angling to do it, especially if you're single and or if you're in a relationship where the woman understands what the deal is. It doesn't make you wrong. It doesn't mean you're doing anything bad. That's just the game. So a man should go and sow his seeds, again, with protection, if you want to go and have fun. Then there comes a time when you're done having fun, you're mentally matured, you had all the fun that you wanted to have, you want to settle down and have a steady home life with one person, if that's what you want to do, and your family and your kids, and then you can go focus on business, and all of a sudden your business starts popping off. Why? Because your focus is there, because mentally you're where you need to be. So when a man does get in that relationship, as I said, he's no longer wandering. Let's move on to point number 7. And so this, actually, last thing on point number 6. A woman cannot tell a man how much is overemphasis on sexual conquest. In this article, these points are written by a woman. She's unqualified to say to a man, well, you're emphasizing too much sexual conquest. And again, why are they teaching this to men? Why are they teaching this to men? The reason they're teaching this to men is because they want to weaken society. If we have fewer men, first of all, we have fewer men if there's fewer conceptions happening. If babies are not being born because sex isn't happening, then there'd be fewer men. And secondly, if they're teaching men that you shouldn't go out there and do what you are biologically wired to do as a man, which is to have sex with women, that is part of our biological wiring. If you are not following that biological wiring, that means you're doing a good thing. And if you are following it, then that makes you toxic. How is that? Again, explain to me how this makes any sense. It doesn't. So you can't explain it. Point number 7. We are talking again here today about what makes you a quote unquote toxic man, toxic masculinity man. Number 7 is hyper competitiveness. Success is equated with outperforming others and achieving dominance in all aspects of life. Okay, this might be the worst point in this whole list. Hyper competitiveness. First of all of life is a competition. If there's an attractive woman in the room and a bunch of men all see that attractive woman, there's competition to get that woman. There's competition to get that woman's attention, competition to have that woman on your arm and to have that woman as your girlfriend or your wife or whatever you want to call her, one of your sexual conquests. There's competition for that. Sports is competitive. All of careers, business is competitive. How many of you ever gone out for a job and you were not the only person trying to get that job? And I would bet every job you ever tried to get, you weren't the only one trying to get it. You were trying to get a promotion. Were you the only one trying to get the promotion? Otherwise, you probably got the promotion if there was no competition. Anything that is worth having, there's a competition to have it. If there's an attractive woman out there, there's a competition for the attractive woman. If there is a trophy out there, there's a competition for the trophy. If there's a dollar out there, there's a competition for the dollar. All right, there's a reason why people get on, when you get on social media, you see people showing off their jewelry and their cars and the flight that they're flying on, that they're sitting in first class or on a private plane, or they got some nice clothes, or they bought a nice pair of shoes. There's a reason why people show that stuff off. Why? Because not everybody can have it. Reason someone shows off and they got a nice watch because they know that, you know, unconsciously, not everybody can afford that watch. I got the watch. People show off the people that they're with or the things that they're doing or where they're sitting at some event. Why? Because they know that, you know, that not everybody can get that seat. All right. Competition is the essence of what life is about. Anything that is worth having, there is a competition to have it, period. And men are wired for competition. Women compete as well, but it is much more in men. We have testosterone. Men have testicles. Testicles produce testosterone. Testosterone gives us an inner drive to compete and to defeat other men in competition. That is part of our biological wiring to compete with each other. Just to be born, there was a competition. All the sperm goes towards the egg. Not every sperm gets to fertilize the egg. One sperm wins to fertilize the egg. That's how a child is conceived. The very essence of life's beginnings are based in competition. So this whole concept is written by this woman who has no idea what she's talking about, that being toxically masculine, if that's even a word, toxically masculine, means you're being hyper competitive. That's exactly what life is. Life is competition. Life is competition. If this woman is any level of attractive, she walks into a room and there are a bunch of available men in the room, they are competing to get her attention. But she's saying being hyper competitive makes you toxic. And the key word here is hyper. What makes someone hyper competitive? And this is why I keep telling you, I got to keep saying this to y'all, that this language, the language games that these people play is very insidious. They know exactly what they're doing. So it's one thing to be competitive. It's another thing to be hyper competitive. What does hyper competitive mean? It means you're being too competitive. Let me ask you a question. Is Michael Jordan hyper competitive? Was Michael Jordan a hyper competitive guy? Is Donald Trump hyper competitive? Is Jeff Bezos hyper competitive? When Michael Jordan wanted to beat every basketball player on the planet and win 6 championships in the 90s, was he being hyper competitive? When Donald Trump decided I'm going to get into politics, even though he had no experience in politics, and said, I'm going to run for president, I'm going to defeat all other 15 people who want to run for the Republican ticket, then I'm going to defeat the Democrat, then I'm going to try to run again, and then I'm going to come back after that one, and I'm going to run again, and I'm going to beat all the Republicans again, and then beat the Democrats again with half the country against me. Was he being hyper competitive? When Jeff Bezos and Amazon, they keep adding new products and new categories to Amazon's site and putting small businesses and small competitors completely out of business, is Jeff Bezos being hyper competitive? Excuse me. When Sam Walton, he's the guy who started the company called Walmart. His heirs are, they dot the billionaires list. It's like 5, 6, or 7 of them, all on the billionaires list, all with the exact same amount of money because of what he started with Walmart. When he started Walmart and he would keep opening shops in different towns and putting other small businesses out of business, was Sam Walton being hyper competitive? I'm asking this question. I pose this question to you all. When Steve Jobs was building Apple, and they were putting any other small, not small, but personal computer companies out of business, was he being hyper competitive? When Bill Gates built Microsoft, was he being hyper competitive? Of course they were. All these people I'm naming were hyper competitive men. And guess what? All of you know exactly who they are. All of you could picture their faces. I'm not even telling you who they are. When I say Michael Jordan, you can picture Michael Jordan. You know what he did for a living. When I say Sam Walton and Walmart, you can picture Walmart. When I say Jeff Bezos, you know Amazon. When I say Bill Gates, you know Bill Gates. All of these men are very well known, all highly respected and looked up to as successful men. And one of the reasons they were successful is because they were extremely competitive and they ended up winning. In order to win, you got to compete. And if you win something that nobody cares about, then nobody cares about you. All these people who I name, they won races that people cared about. That's why they are who they are. Competitiveness is the essence of masculinity. Any man who doesn't want to compete is not being a true man. He is denying his own essence. This is not even Dre's opinion. Any man who is not looking to compete for the things that he cares about is denying the essence of who you are. You're denying your own existence as a man. We want to compete. Again, I can't speak for the female position, but women who go into a space of competitiveness, let's say like female sports, you have to have a certain level of testosterone in you to want to compete. Women who play professional sports have a level of testosterone in them because that's where the drive to compete comes from testosterone. That's a male, what's the word I'm looking for? The word is escaping me. Just like men having more of a, let's say, a nurturing sense, there's a little bit of estrogen in them. Men have a little bit of estrogen in them, same way women have a little bit of testosterone. Some have a little bit more than others on both sides. The whole point is competing is part of the game. And the male peacock, like I'm talking literally peacocks. Down here in Miami, you'll see peacocks in the street, like walking around. The male peacock, some people don't know this, is the one who has the feathers. So when you see a peacock, period, and they show their feathers and people take pictures of the peacock with all the feathers, only the males have that. The female peacocks don't have feathers, not those kind of feathers, not the ones where they show it off. The reason the male peacock shows off its feathers is what? To show, first of all, the other women that he's the guy that you should come and reproduce with. That's why the male shows off the feathers, because he's trying to impress the women. And the other thing he's doing is showing the other male peacocks, I'm the guy, you can't compete with me. They're competing against each other by showing off their feathers. That's why you have this concept that they call peacocking. All right. Peacocking is what men do when they're showing off what they have to, number one, impress women, and it works. And number two, to intimidate other men. Hey, you can't beat me. Look what I got. Man walks around with his shirt off. He's showing other men, hey, you can't physically compete with me. And he's showing other women, hey, I'm the guy that you should want to come and recreate with. All right. That's what we're doing. That's what peacocking means. But it comes from actual peacocks. And again, peacocks show off their feathers for a specific reason. They're not showing it off because they want you to take a picture and put it on Instagram. They're showing off their feathers because they want the women, the female peacocks, to come to them. They're called peahens, and they want to recreate with them, because that's the reason why. That's the only reason they have sex, is to recreate, make more of them. So when men do things that seem to not make sense, you got a man who is working. He works a 9 to 5. But he he runs an Ironman race twice a year. He flies to fucking Brazil to get an Ironman race. And I know men who actually do this. Why do men do that? It's not like he's trying to be a professional Ironman runner. He got a 9 to 5 job. He runs a business. Why is he doing that? Because men need to compete. Why does a man get in a triathlon in March? He's training is December. He's training for a triathlon that's going to be in March or April of next year. Why is he doing that? A woman may wonder, why are you doing this? You got a career, you got 3 kids, you wear a suit and tie to work every day at your office, but you're training and running a triathlon. Why are you doing this? Because men need to compete. We need outlets for competition. There's a reason that men do this. There's a reason why when I go to the gym, there's a bunch of men in the boxing gym hitting the punching bag and wanting to spar and do all that stuff, because we need to compete. There's a reason why I stopped playing sports professionally 10 years ago, but I still go to the gym every day. I still get in 10K races. I still go to the boxing gym. Why? Because men need to compete. We need something to compete on. Now, we can compete business-wise. We can compete mentally, like running the business, but I also need to compete physically. That's why I still work out. All men need this. All right. Is this a contributing factor? All of these things are contributing factors to knowing that you have out-achieved other men. And when a man is clearly out-achieving other men, that makes him more attractive to feminine women. That's just a reality that's just a scientific, biological reality. Feminine women are attracted to men who appear to be and are showing to be better than other men in fair competition. This is just how it works. Men who win competitions are more attracted to feminine women. So this woman who wrote this article is hurting her fellow women by even trying to encourage men to not want to compete. We want to compete. And I named for you a bunch of men who are hyper competitive, quote unquote, hyper competitive. They competed in everything in their particular realm, beat a whole lot of people in their particular realm. And now they are honored and looked at as some of the best men in history because of their competitiveness. But now it's being told to us that makes you toxic, which is crazy. Moving on, point number 8. 2 more points and I'll take questions. We're talking here today about what makes a man a toxic masculinity man. Number 8, pressure to provide and protect. All right, so I said the last one might be the worst point in this list. That now is number 2. This is the worst point in the list. Pressure to provide and protect. All right, this is a man. And so what they say is men are seen as the sole or primary providers and protectors in families, placing financial and emotional burdens on them, period. Okay, let me ask a question. Ladies who are listening to this, how many of you would be happy to be in a relationship with a man who did all the providing and you didn't have to do any of it yourself? Put yes if you would love to be in a relationship like that. Put no if you would hate being in a relationship like that or you don't want that. I'm not saying that you are in. I'm just saying, would you like it? Would you like to be in a relationship? Put yes, ladies, if you would like to be in a relationship with a man where all the providing was done by him, you didn't have to do any. You can go work if you want to, but your money is not needed. Or no, if you rather be the needed provider in a relationship, or some of your money is necessary for the subsistence of the family. Put no if you want to be needed. Put yes if you would love to not be needed, even if you have a job, even if you have a career, even if you go make your money. So I'm seeing yes, yes, yes. So this is a societal, again, it's not even societal. It's biological that the men are the go out and they hunt. The women are the gatherers. They stayed in the cave and they took care of the kids and they will cook up all the food that the men went out there and hunted and got. That's the way it is supposed to work. That's the way biologically it was laid out. This is why we can even see right here in modern times, societally, women would prefer to be with a man who did all the providing and then whatever she provided is not necessary. So basically, if you make some money, you keep all your money. We don't need any of your money for bills. It's all taken care of by the man, taken care of by me. So this whole concept here of pressure to provide and protect makes you a toxic man. Now, again, if this list was labeled differently, if this list was just something like, hey, here are some things that, if the list said something like, here are some things that men have traditionally had expected of them, then I wouldn't even be talking about this. But they're calling this toxic, as if this means you're doing something wrong. It's like some kind of disease. It's toxic. The pressure to provide and protect. Men should feel pressure to provide and protect. First of all, men are physically stronger than women. So a man should want to protect any women and children around them. All right, that's one of the points of man being man, is that you're there to protect the women and children. A woman shouldn't feel vulnerable or physically in danger when she has a man around. Now, she may feel that there's no man around, but if there's a man around, she shouldn't feel endangered. If there's a knock at the door at 2 a.m. and there's a man and a woman in the house, the woman should stay in the room with the kids and the man should go out there and find out what's going on. But, period. If a woman is in danger and she's by herself and she calls 911, who do you want to show up? You don't want a female cop to show up. You want a man to show up. Why? Because the man has the physicality and hopefully the aggression and the protector instinct to protect that woman from any possible danger that might be lurking around the corner, which is why you call 911 in the first place. And when it comes to providing, again, what man doesn't want to do this? Every man wants to do it, even if you can't do it, or you're not doing it right now, or if you're single, you're not even in a relationship, you want to provide for a woman. And a woman wants to be provided for, as I've already showed you here. So we can translate this, again, pressure and stress. I use these words often when I'm talking to my audiences outside of even what I'm doing right here. These are good things. Pressure and stress are good things for men. Women have wide hips because a woman is designed to give birth. So they can give birth to a child. They can bear the child coming through their body. That's why women have wider hips. Men have wider shoulders, broad shoulders. Why do men have broad shoulders? So that we can deal with the pressure and stress on our shoulders and handle it and go do man things, what we expect to be man things, such as handling problems, addressing issues, channeling our emotions, directing our energy where it needs to go, and solving problems. All right, that's why men and women are designed the way that we're designed. Women are designed to nurture. Men are designed to hunt and solve. All right, that's what we're designed to do. That doesn't mean a man cannot be nurturing, and it doesn't mean a woman can't go out and hunt. But as a general point, are these directionally true? Of course they're true. And why, again, are people in society trying to push back against this? Because they're trying to destroy masculinity. That's what they're looking to do. Any masculine man should feel pressure to be a provider and a protector of all women and of all children. Any man should feel that pressure to do it. Again, even if you are not successfully doing it right now, you should feel like, hey, this is where I'm trying to get to. I'm not there yet, but I'm working on it. I'm not there, but I want to be there. Every man should aim to do that. Even you can take fucking Jay-Z. All right, he's in a relationship with Beyonce. All right, does Beyonce make some money? According to what we heard, Beyonce makes plenty of money. All right, Jay-Z makes money too. But I would bet that Jay-Z's aim still, even though his wife makes a ton of money, his aim is to be able to take care of the whole family with just what he brings in his bank account. All right, so it's not necessarily that your wife has to be barefoot in the kitchen making dinner all day. It's that the man should be able to provide and protect for the women and the children by any means at all times, even if the woman has her own stuff or whatever it happens to be, even if the kid's making money. The man is the provider. That's his responsibility. So if your wife or girlfriend works and makes money, that's fine. But you want to be in a position as a man, any man listening to this wants to be in a position where whatever money your wife or girlfriend makes is inconsequential to the bottom line of what happens in the household. Again, who doesn't want that? So if a rival enemy were to invade your town, we're not seeing the wives. The women are not going out there on the front line, laying their lives on the line to save you, but you will lay your life on the line to save her and to save the kids. All right. The general role of a man is protection and providing, period. The general role of a woman is nurturing and raising. And again, they can flip at times, but that is not the general role of either one biologically. And again, I'm thinking that maybe this woman didn't come up with all these points on her own, but I'm thinking she had help from some very unhappy lesbians writing this article, the nonsense that I'm reading here. And much of this is what I'm saying, but I'm just looking at these points. Last point, number 9. We're talking here today about what makes toxic masculinity. Number 9 is stigmatization of non-traditional masculinities. Non-traditional masculinities, meaning men who deviate from traditional masculine roles, such as a stay-at-home dad, are often judged or ridiculed, period. All right, so first of all, I say that's true. A man who does not follow a traditional masculine role, such as a man who is attracted to other men, or men who have a high level of feminine energy within them, or a man who is a stay-at-home dad, meaning he's not working, but the wife is out working. Do these men get judged or ridiculed? The answer is yes. Yes, they do. Yeah, they get judged and ridiculed. Why? Because this is not the biological wiring of a man. And for people to judge or ridicule them, so what? There's nothing wrong with judging another person. If you have a judgment, we all judge other people. Sometimes we judge them positively, sometimes we judge them negatively. It doesn't make any of us wrong. Right? So this whole idea that men can deviate from traditional masculine roles, I agree with. Yes, a man can deviate. You want to be a stay-at-home dad? Go ahead, be a stay-at-home dad. All right, you're attracted to men, be attracted to men. But will you get ridiculed? Yes, you're going to get ridiculed. Yes, you are going to get ridiculed by other men who are like, what the hell are you doing? Are you a woman or a man? Or who wears the pants in this relationship? People used to say that back in the day. I don't know what they say now. Who wears the pants in the relationship, the man or the woman? The person wearing the pants, you got the person wearing the pants and the person wearing the dress. Which one are you? Are men going to think that? Yes. And in some circles, men will actually say it out loud. It's not as common now as it used to be. But is this a thing? Yes. Yes, this is a thing. So because of everything we talked about already in the previous points, again, the traditional masculine role that was handed to us by our creator, whoever you call that, is what? What was handed to us by our creator is to go out and hunt and gather for the women and children. That's it. If you are not doing that, you are not playing your biological role. And that means you may be stigmatized and ridiculed, not only by men, but also by women. All right. There are women out there who will either think or say out loud, okay, are you a man or not? Isn't that, do women think that? Ladies who are listening to this, do you ever think that you see a man who's kind of not doing manly things and you say, are you a man or a woman? Are you a male or a female? Are you a man or a bitch? All right. There are women who think that. If men are out there not, again, following the biological male role. And it's not saying they can't dip in and out. It's not like a man can't hold your child and put your child down for a nap. All right. It doesn't mean that. What I'm saying is that there are certain things that are expected of men because we have testicles, and there are certain things that are expected of women because this is biologically how we were created. This is not some thing that we're just socially going to just change it up just because we want to redefine what it means to be a man and redefine what it means to be a woman. Women are not really being redefined. It's really men being redefined so much. And again, that's how you undercut a society and you crumble society when you make the men forget who they are. It's not about changing the women. It's about changing the man. So if you are a masculine man, you are not affected by any of these alleged stigmas or ridicule by other people. And if you are, then you're more female than man. That's it. A man is not so worried about what other people have to say about him if he knows that he's following his biological role, doing what he's supposed to do. And if you are, then again, you're behaving more like a woman or a child. Women and children have the luxury of getting emotionally engaged with what other people have to say or what other people think. A man does not have that luxury. You give up that luxury just by the reality of being a man. You got to give that up. You don't get the luxury of crying and being all emotional and wallowing in your feelings all the time because you got shit that needs to be done. And you have people, your woman and your children, who are holding or who are depending on you to fill your role and get things done and be the provider and solve the problems because they are not capable of doing what you're capable of doing. This is the responsibility of a man. And is this always fun? Hell no. Is it always easy? No. Is this always a luxurious way of living? No. But it is the life that you were assigned when you were born as a man, period. And you cannot change to being a woman. And that's another thing. We got men deciding to be women because I think a lot of men subconsciously, they don't want this responsibility. So they rather let me just turn into a bitch. Now that makes it easier. Now I can be a woman. Now I can go compete against women, even though I have all the biological, physical traits of a man. And now the job is easier for me. Bullshit. And you got people writing these articles. Again, this woman, I believe, if I remember the woman who wrote this is a woman who has all kinds of letters after her name, like advanced degrees and all of this stuff, certifications and all of this. She's the one writing this bullshit. This is garbage. And it's a very well-known, very well-respected website, very well-minded, wrote this concept. So let me take questions. I'll start over on YouTube. Rick Dara said, what's your opinion on marijuana for recovery and mental health? Now, I don't really have an opinion on it. I don't smoke, so I can't really give you anything. Rick, thank you for asking, but I don't really have anything to give you on that subject. Over on Instagram, The Noble Life, what's going on, my dude? come to Work on Your Game University. I don't know what I haven't heard from you in a minute, but come into Work on Your Game University. Efo Sunday, congrats on the badge. Thank you for getting the badge. All right, TikTok, what we got? If you got a question or comment on TikTok, go ahead and post it and I'll address it. I don't know if I've seen a lot, but let me see what we got. If you have a question or comment on anything that I talked about here today, we're talking about toxic masculinity, or what allegedly is toxic masculinity. That's what I'm addressing here today. And by the way, I do my lives Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. I might not do a live tomorrow. We'll see. If I do a live tomorrow, it might be later in the afternoon, and I might just pick an evergreen topic. But then we'll be back to the normal schedule on Thursday, definitely on Monday. I think that's when everybody goes back to work on Monday. Rock Providence says, still selling books. I didn't even mention a book here today, but yeah, I do still sell books. That's correct. But you really should look at Work on Your Game University. The book is good. The higher level is Work on Your Game University. Travis asked, do I mentor? Yes, I have coaching. I have a coaching program called Work on Your Game University. The link is in my bio on this app, Travis. You just go to my bio. My bio or profile. There's a link there for Work on Your Game University. That's where you can find out more. Key Beacons, I don't know what you're responding to. I need context. Mara, Missouri, good to see you. Black Weasel, thank you for telling people to share it live. We got 9,000 likes. Can we get to 10,000 likes? That means we need, about 800 more likes? We'll be at 10,000. So I see all the women tend to be in agreement with the questions that I'm asking here. Sasha Queen says, who are you speaking for? Well, first and foremost, speaking for myself. Sasha said, do I have kids? Yes, I do. Amazing Lady said, what's the name of the book? What book are you asking about? I don't know. I didn't think I even mentioned the book. But if I did, tell me what you're referring to, and I'll tell you. Sixth Ranger, good morning. Slither said, find solutions on his own. Yes, everybody respects a man who finds solutions on his own. Doesn't mean a man can't consult references. If I need to solve a business problem, for example, I might call a couple business colleagues that I have. I might get on ChatGPT or Google or consult some books that I have or information, but I am still putting the onus on myself to come up with the solution. I'm not going to go to someone else and say, well, hey, I have no way of solving this problem, even though I'm supposed to solve the problem. So the framing of the points that got put into that article make it's insidious what they're doing, and they know what they're doing. These are very smart people who are doing this. Only facts and stats. Appreciate you, sir. Mara said, yes, that's right. Six Ranger said, the concept has never appealed to me. I'm a one-woman type of guy. Nothing wrong with that, Six Ranger. There's nothing wrong with that at all. The point being that if a man wants to have multiple sexual conquests, that doesn't make him toxic. That's the framing of the point was, if a man wants to have multiple sexual conquests or a lot, they didn't quantify it, of course. They make it seem like that makes the man toxic if he wants to have sex with more than one woman. That doesn't make a man toxic. That makes him a man. It makes him just normal. Doesn't mean that you can't be normal also if you want to be with one woman, but it doesn't make you abnormal if you want to be with more than one. Amazing Lady said, that's why there are so many fatherless children. Not necessarily, Amazing Lady. That's why I clearly emphasized that if you're going to be with multiple women, you need to protect yourself. You shouldn't be having unwanted pregnancies. You should only be having sex unprotected with a woman that you want to be your wife and you want to build a family with. Now, there are many men out there who are reckless, regardless of how many partners they have, and they end up having kids with more than one woman because they were being reckless, not because they were trying to do it. Now, there are a few men out there who are doing it on purpose, and they sound crazy, but there are a lot of men, they do it by accident because they just lack discipline. Amazing Lady said there are plenty of unwanted pregnancies. Yes, I agree. I just explained why, because a lot of men lack discipline. And I put it more on the man than I put it on the woman, because a man should be smarter than that. Max said Walmart was American, now the C country. Okay, well, that doesn't change what I said about Sam Walton. The whole point is about Sam Walton, not about Walmart. Voice of Reason said life is more than money. I agree with that. Time is more valuable than money. I agree with you on that. Mara says scripture requires men to provide and protect. That's exactly right. 100%. Sebastian on YouTube says, if you're a man with financial means, is it still masculine to pay to have services done, such as mowing the lawn, fixing the car? Is it more manly to do it yourself? No, yeah, it makes sense. What you're saying, is it still masculine Yes. So for example, I do not mow lawns. I don't have a lawn, but if I did, I ain't mowing no lawn. I'm not even buying a lawn mower. I am hiring a landscaping company to mow the lawn. Fixing the car. Again, I have a car. I'm not fixing it. You're not going to see me sliding under the car with oil all on me. I'm not doing that. I'm taking the car to the dealership. I say, I'm paying you mofos, fix the goddamn car. Y'all fix the car. And what's another one you said? Or whatever, dry cleaning. All right, when I need to get this suit clean or this dress shirt clean or this tie clean, I'm not cleaning it. I'm taking it to the dry cleaners. I'm going to pay them. They say, hey, Mr. Baldwin, this suit will be ready next Wednesday. I'll be back next Wednesday to get my suit. All right, so when you have financial means, Sebastian, the way you need to think about it is what produces the highest ROI when it comes to your financial means, because usually it's not mowing the lawn. All right, you don't get paid to mow the lawn usually if you have money, unless you're a landscaper. You get paid by selling your products or by making business deals or whatever it is you do for a living. So you should emphasize spending as much time as possible doing the thing that makes you money and then using the money to get everything else done that needs to be done, but doesn't necessarily have to be done by you. That's the way you got to think about using your money. And you don't have to have a lot of money to do that. You can make average money and do that. You can make $50,000 a year and still think the same way. So if I make 50 grand a year at my job, I know that all 50 grand is coming from my job. So anytime that I'm spending doing something that is not directly making me money, it's costing me money because I'm not making money. How much money do I make to mow the lawn? None. That's costing me money. So how about I just pay somebody to mow the lawn, and then I could use that same time and maybe do something that I can use to supplement my income. Let's say I start a business on the side. So instead of spending an hour cutting my grass on Saturday, I can spend an hour working on my side business that might make me an extra 10 grand a year. It makes more sense to work on my side business and make 10 grand than it makes sense to spend an hour mowing the lawn and make zero. So that's the way you got to think about it. It is not really about how much money you have. And it's the way of thinking about it before you have money. That's the point. Sebastian, appreciate you. Thank you for asking. Let's see. Amazing said, I jumped in before knowing what you were reading. Oh, yeah, it's not a book. This is an article, amazing lady. This is an article from a website called verywellmind.com. It's all about toxic masculinity. And you're saying you want to know where this curriculum is being used in schools. This is, I said that as a general point. The generalization is that this whole concept of toxic masculinity, these very points that I'm sharing here, this is what's being told to young men and young women, that this is what makes you toxic. And I'm saying that societally, in Western society, it is being told to men that you are doing something wrong if you have or you share these ideas. This is one of the reasons why that guy, the bald-headed guy who used to be a kickboxer who got kicked off all social media, there are countries like the UK, Australia, where this guy's material is actively being protested against in schools. Like they are telling young men, don't listen to this guy. You can't listen to this guy. Don't go around believing anything that this guy says, because what this guy is talking about, he's talking about masculinity he's going very hard on this concept of masculinity. He's getting a whole lot of pushback, not because anything he's saying is toxic, but what he's saying is that basically what I said in his way. Everything that I said here today, he talks about it in his way, and he's become so popular that people are pushing back against the concept of his very existence because they're trying to weaken men. That's the whole point. A lot of societies are looking to weaken men, and when you weaken men in a society, that society will crumble apart because they become very vulnerable to outside influence. And you can see this in the United States with boys deciding that they're girls and girls deciding that they're boys, and people just going along with this. Men deciding that they should stand down and let a woman be in a leadership position when a man's biological role is to be in a leadership position. This is what happens when you weaken men. People start accepting all kinds of nonsense. And when you don't weaken men, the men stand on business, as you all like to say, and they don't allow the bullshit in. In America, we're on a whole lot of bullshit in because men are no longer being men. And they're being influenced to no longer be men by smart people who are writing bullshit like what I was reading from here today. And school is just an extension of this. All right, this I got off the internet, but this same kind of stuff is being taught in schools. That's the point that I'm making. So just so let everybody know before if there are any other questions or comments coming through, then I'll get to them. But I do these lives Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. Tomorrow is going to be on a different schedule because my gym doesn't open till 8 o'clock because of the holiday. So I'll be at the gym at 8 o'clock tomorrow. I might do a live tomorrow. I might not. But if I do, it'll be later in the day. But if I don't worry. I'll be back Thursday at 8 a.m. Eastern. Don't know what the topic is going to be yet. I got a lot of stuff that I could possibly get to and address. And then I'll be here Thursday and Friday. And then Monday, I think everybody will be back to their normal schedule. I believe that's January. Is Monday January 6th? I believe so. Is it? Yes, Monday is January 6th. Now, one thing I can guarantee you that on January 6th, Monday, I'm going to do a live about January 6th, 2021. If y'all don't know what that date is, the significance of it, that's the date when Donald Trump had the speech in D.C. and the quote unquote insurrection. I'm gonna do a whole live on that on January 6th, 2025, about 2021. That's absolutely happening on next Monday. But I will be live maybe tomorrow. We'll see. Definitely Thursday, definitely Friday. Topics TBD, to be determined. Thank you, Bara Abracadabra. Thank you. As Shane said, how many wars have men started? All of them, 100% of them. Whatever number you can name, they started all of them, and they ended them as well. How many wars have women won? If you want to play that game, the answer is 0. So there you go. And if there was a war between men and women would cease to exist, and then men would cease to exist right after that. So everybody has their role. All right. So I think I addressed everything here today. Everybody first of all, let me tell you all if you're not a regular listener to my material, even outside of these live streams, write down your goals for 2025. Write down your goals for the month of January. So you should be writing down goals for every month and for every year. So we got a year starting tomorrow and we got a month starting tomorrow. Write down your goals. A goal is basically a script. You know, like an actor or an actress, they show up to the set. They already read the script, so they know what they're supposed to say when the cameras come on. Your goals are like a script that tell you what the show is going to be like. And if you show up to the set without knowing your lines, then you might have to ad lib and just randomly figure it out. And if you're extremely talented, maybe it'll work out. But for most people, it doesn't work out that way. You're much better when you are prepared ahead of time. Professionals are always prepared ahead of time. One of the ways that you prepare for success in life is by setting goals before the time comes. So you set your goals as a preparation and expectation of your future success. So if you do one thing today, I know most of you got off today, take the time to write down your goals. Whether you do it digitally, you do it physically, write down your goals for 2025 and for the month of January, so that when tomorrow hits and the ball drops and the fireworks go off, you already have a plan for your success. That way, on a daily basis, you already know what you're going to do, because all you got to do is look at your goals. Okay, what can I do to get closer to hitting this goal, this yearly goal? What can I do today, this week, this month to get closer to hitting this goal? That's one of the reasons why you write down goals. So you have a clear plan and you can start to come up with a strategy for what exactly am I going to do with my time. When you don't have a plan for what to do with your time gets sucked up by randomness, such as scrolling on social media. And before you know it, a whole day went by, a whole month went by, a year went by. You can't even name the things that you got done because you had no plan, you had no script, and you just tried to improvise. And here's the challenge, that the people who make the algorithms on these social media apps are better at it than you are. Meaning, if you don't have a plan, they will use your time better than you will use your time, because you don't have anything pulling you away from the For You page or the Explore tab. They're going to suck you in with dopamine hits. And before you know it, 3 hours and gone by, you haven't gotten shit done. And you're like, damn, I was just scrolling on TikTok or on YouTube all day, didn't get anything done. And boom, another month, another year went by that you have not made progress because you didn't have a plan. Everybody understand? This is why you write down your goals. This is why you write your goals now. So write your goals down today. If you don't do anything else, write your goals down. Because again, most of y'all ain't at work today. Write your goals down. Even if you are at work, you're getting off early, write your goals down. Show up to the new year with a plan of exactly what you're going to do, exactly what type of person you're going to become, and exactly what outcomes you want to achieve in the year 2025. And by the way, if you are new here or you only watch me on these lives, but you don't consume any of my other stuff, I talk about this stuff all the time, every day. So I got a podcast called Work on Your Game. I'll give y'all one place to go. Go to Apple or Spotify, whichever one you use, and look up my show. It's called Work on Your Game. So you see this book, Work on Your Game, another one right here, Work on Your Game, another one right there. It's called Work on Your Game. It comes out every day. It's about 20, 30 minutes per episode, usually. It's just me talking. I don't interview people. I don't have guests. It's just me talking. I go about 20, 30 minutes every single day talking about stuff like what I just said. CD said you busting us upside the head. I do this every day. I bust people upside the head every day on my show. So it's called Work on Your Game. Look it up on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or YouTube. Just subscribe to my YouTube channel. The link to my YouTube channel, those of y'all on TikTok, is right there in my profile on TikTok. Just click on that link. It'll take you right to my YouTube channel. Subscribe to my YouTube. The replays for all these live streams are on YouTube. So anyone that you missed, or you only caught half of it, or you just missed one day, or I tell you I talked about such and such 3 weeks ago, is on YouTube. So y'all go find it on YouTube. And I gotta go to the bathroom. So everybody have a great rest of your, what's the day? Tuesday? Tuesday or Wednesday? Have great rest of your Tuesday. Write your goals down. Happy New Year. I will see all of you maybe tomorrow, definitely Thursday. Work on your game. We are out of here. Write your goals down.